Listen to this. The source material we're unpacking in today's explainer kicks off with a genuinely terrifying story from a cardiologist. Picture this. It's 3 weeks ago, and he gets a frantic phone call at 3:47 in the morning. His absolute best friend, a totally healthy 58-year-old guy who practically lives at the gym, is suddenly in the ICU in full cardiac arrest. They had just found him collapsed on his bathroom floor at 6:15 a.m. Now, this really hit the cardiologist hard. He actually admits that he'd completely brushed off his friend's early symptoms. A little dizziness, a racing heart. He just told him, hey, you're just waking up, don't worry about it. But here's the kicker. His friend's heart didn't give out from some rare genetic issue, and it certainly wasn't from a lack of exercise. It stopped because of 5 very specific, shockingly normal things he was doing every single morning. Things so ordinary, I guarantee you probably do them too without a second thought. So the main focus of our entire explainer today boils down to one incredibly stark warning from this doctor. And I need you to hear this. If you are doing these things, death is near. Seriously, these everyday morning routines aren't just bad habits. They are literal physiological triggers for sudden cardiac arrest. We're going to break down exactly what these invisible triggers are so you can stop doing them tomorrow morning. To really grasp why these habits are so unbelievably fatal, we've got to look at the timing. When I read this stat, my jaw practically hit the floor. 40%. That is how many more heart attacks happen between 6 a.m. and noon compared to literally any other time of day. And if you add to that the fact that there are 49% more strokes and 29% more sudden cardiac deaths before breakfast, well, it's pretty clear. Mornings are, without a doubt, the absolute deadliest time for your heart. But why is that? Well, the very moment you wake up, your body is essentially a biological storm. Think about it. In just the first 15 minutes of opening your eyes, your main stress hormone, cortisol, spikes 50 to 60%. Your adrenaline surges like a massive tidal wave, instantly kicking you into fight or flight mode. And your blood pressure? It jumps 10 to 20 points right out of the gate. So your cardiovascular system is already redlining under maximum physiological stress before your feet even touch the floor. Now let's see what happens when you throw our first deadly habit right into the middle of that story. So let's get into it. Danger 1, the sudden stand. This is a massive fatal mistake that a staggering 87% of people make every day. The alarm blasts, your eyes snap open, and boom, you jump right out of bed the very second you wake up. You probably think you're being super productive and disciplined, right? But here's the physics of it. When you're sleeping horizontally, your blood is nice and evenly distributed. The exact second you stand vertical, gravity violently pulls 1 full liter of blood straight down into your legs and abdomen. Suddenly, your brain doesn't have enough oxygen to run the show. Now, in younger bodies, these little sensors called baroreceptors fix this drop in milliseconds. But if you're over 60, those sensors are a bit slow. The cardiologist actually compares them to smoke detectors with dying batteries. Your brain starves for oxygen, and that's what causes that morning dizziness or even a full collapse. And guys, here is exactly where it gets lethal. It's called reflex tachycardia. Because of that lag in the sensors, your nervous system totally panics. It overcompensates by dumping massive amounts of extra adrenaline into your system. This forces your heart rate to accelerate from resting to maximum RPM in mere seconds. This violent acceleration forces an already super stressed heart to pump against extreme pressure, which can easily trigger fatal ventricular fibrillation. You're literally dead before you hit the floor. The cardiologist's friend, he jumped out of bed at 5:47 a.m. By 6:15 a.m., he had collapsed.
Moving right along to danger 2, the dehydration sludge.
When you wake up, your very first instinct might be to just reach over for your phone, or maybe head to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. But listen, after 8 hours of sleeping, your body has basically been bleeding itself dry through respiration. You are waking up in a state of severe chronic dehydration. This creates a terrifying state called hemoconcentration. Your actual blood volume decreases, but your cell counts stay exactly the same. So what does that do? It creates thick, sticky, clot-prone blood. And remember our core focus today? If you are doing this, death is near. Forcing your heart to pump what is essentially thick honey instead of water makes your blood platelets stick together like little magnets. If you have any unstable plaque hiding in your arteries, these sticky platelets will form a clot, completely cut off blood flow, and boom, massive morning heart attack. All right, next up is danger 3, morning caffeine shock. I know. Coffee is a deeply sacred morning ritual for most of us. Believe me, I need my morning cup too. But the cardiologist warns that caffeine is a highly violent stimulant. It doesn't gently wake you up like you think it does. It severely narrows your blood vessels, causes another massive adrenaline surge, and dramatically spikes your blood pressure on a system that is already struggling with that thick sludge blood and sky-high cortisol. If you drink strong coffee or an espresso on a completely empty stomach, that caffeine hits peak concentration in your bloodstream in just 15 to 20 minutes. There's absolutely zero food in there to slow it down. This creates what he calls a caffeine shock, sending your blood pressure spiking up 20 to 40 points in minutes. It's literally like pouring gasoline on a fire. The doctor's friend drank a double espresso on an empty stomach just 20 minutes before he was found on the floor.
Okay, let's talk about danger 4, redlining the engine.
This means doing really intense exercise, going for a run, doing HIIT, heavy weightlifting, in those first few hours right after waking up. Now, you might think you're being heroic by getting after it early, but forcing an already stressed, stiff cardiovascular system into high gear like that can easily trigger myocardial ischemia, which is just a fancy way of saying your heart muscle isn't getting anywhere near enough oxygen. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is avoiding the fasted cardio trap. Doing intense workouts while you're fasting and dehydrated forces your heart into immediate overdrive. It breaks down your muscle for energy, spikes that cortisol even higher, and causes crazy dangerous blood sugar drops. You are basically creating the absolute perfect biological conditions for total cardiovascular collapse, especially if you have hidden plaque.
Which brings us to the final and absolutely biggest mistake. Danger 5, the silent threat.
Look, you could completely fix all your other morning habits, but if you just walk around assuming you are perfectly healthy without ever actually getting screened, you are playing Russian roulette with your heart. The cardiologist really stresses this. His friend looked incredibly healthy. The guy went to the gym 5 days a week, but he had silent plaque building up in his arteries for years. If you are over 60, you absolutely need to know your numbers through essential screenings. We're talking a coronary calcium score, an ECG stress test, and a CT angiography if you have known risk factors. Morning behaviors that are totally harmless to a healthy heart are straight up deadly to a heart with hidden disease. Seriously, do not guess about your health. Okay, I know that was pretty heavy, but let's shift gears to the solution. Here is the safe morning protocol. Let's move to the physical steps first. This is the 2-minute wake up. It's so easy. When your alarm goes off, step 1 is just to lie completely still for 30 to 60 seconds and take 5 deep, slow breaths. This tells your panicked nervous system, hey, we're okay, there's no emergency. Step 2, simply sit up on the edge of the bed for 60 seconds and slowly circle your ankles. Just get the blood pumping back up from your legs. Finally, step 3, stand up gradually. 2 minutes. That is all it takes to prevent your blood pressure from totally crashing. Next up, grab some water. You want to drink 300 to 400 milliliters of room temperature water before doing absolutely anything else. The cardiologist highly recommends just leaving a glass right there on your nightstand before you go to sleep. Diluting that sticky, dehydrated blood sludge from the night before is the absolute most critical first action you can take to prevent a morning clot. And finally, let's talk about the timing of your morning routine. You've got to eat something, literally even just a banana or a quick piece of toast before you have any coffee. This slows down the caffeine absorption. And please wait 2 to 3 hours before you do any intense exercise. Just letting your morning hormones normalize and your blood vessels warm up completely protects your heart from that catastrophic redlining we talked about. Now, I want to leave you with a really fascinating question the cardiologist poses at the very end of his source material. He went back and analyzed over 180 cardiac event survivors, and he actually found a specific time in the morning when your cardiac risk is at its absolute peak maximum. It's a mistake that is actually even more dangerous than the 5 we just covered today, and it's the exact same thing that warned them right before his best friend's heart stopped. The cardiologist is releasing those exact findings in his next piece of research, and he's claiming it can cut your overall cardiac risk by up to 70%. Make sure you hit subscribe right now so you don't miss our next explainer covering that exact protocol. And please, do me a favor, share this explainer right away with someone you know who is over 60. Tomorrow morning, just give your heart 5 minutes of actual care. It could literally be the difference between life and death.